And we are live. I do believe. We'll just have some awkward silence until I play this.
And now, on with the show.
Time for bladder check. Check.
Check.
Check. Wait. Screw it, I'm holding it.
Podcasting, the final audio frontier. These are the legends of Brown Squadron.
Our computer is picking up a strange signal. Here, sir, you better take a look at it.
The ongoing mission? To explore the Star Wars universe and other nerd culture topics. To seek new content and new cantinas, bars, and lounges. To boldly annoy Scruffy by making too many bad jokes. Welcome to the Hyperspace Heroes Podcast.
All right, welcome to Hyperspace Heroes. This is Brown Leader signing in. All wings report in.
Brown 4, back from his recon mission.
Brown Lady here. How's everybody doing?
Brown 39 is back to join us. Welcome back,
Brown
Dave.
39.
Welcome. So special, what should we call this, instead of Hyperspace, call this Warp Speed podcast tonight or something? But, yeah, welcome back, Dave. Dave was with us back in February or March, I think it was. We were just talking about that. It was episode 73. Model actor, best known originally on this show for Strange New Worlds, and but you've added some more things to your IMDb page since then, Dave.
I have, haven't I? Yeah, what? Season 4 of The Boys, soon to be Trapped, coming out next week in theaters. Umbrella Academy. It's been an exciting journey, that's for sure.
Umbrella Academy. I didn't know about that. That's cool.
Yeah, it was briefly in the trailer for the last I was in the last trailer briefly for season 4 of Umbrella Academy, so exciting.
I love that show. I'll definitely have to check that. I'm going to definitely check that trailer out. Yeah, and Boys, you had posted about being in The Boys, the latest season 4, which just finished, and I like we were talking about before we started the show, I binged all 4 seasons over the last month, and got to season 4 and saw some familiar shots because we talk to each other quite a bit on social, and yeah, it was great seeing you on screen. And I know last time you couldn't talk about being on it, but how was working with that crew?
It was actually one of the first shows I did after Star Trek back in 2022. The crew were great. I met so many great people as well too. Made so many friends off working on The Boys for all that time, and it's surreal. Like, that crew and cast are so talented.
That's awesome. That's very cool. That's very, very cool.
I'm going to have to sit down and watch this show. I've not. My stepson is so into it, and he keeps telling me to watch it. And I'm sorry, Dave, I haven't had a chance.
It's good. I hope I think they said it's one of the most popular viewers within the last 35 days. So it's The Boys. You know what to expect, right? It's wild.
Yeah, I was quite surprised. I mean, I had seen stuff about the show, but I hadn't watched it up until about a month ago, and I was like, wow, that's yeah. Okay, I can see why people enjoy it for sure. It was definitely edgy, that's for sure.
It is.
DB, do not watch it with Brownie 4. That's
Okay.
all I'm gonna say. It is.
She won't have any interest in it. So
Yeah. No.
She my influence is waning. She's a teenager now, so.
It puts the word graphic back into things. Yeah.
Gotcha.
It is definitely for adults.
for sure.
You're not afraid to pull the punches either.
Right on. Right on. It's crazy. So how's everything been going on with you since other than the boys, Dave, for you?
It's been wild. It's been a fun ride.
Yeah.
2024 has been one hell of a year so far.
In a good way.
In a great way.
Yeah, good.
In a great way. I've made a lot of amazing friends like you all down the road. It's been a hell of a year.
Right on. Right on.
I am humbled.
Now, DB, you weren't able to join us last time, so this is your chance if you wanted, since Dave has been on an actual set for Star Trek. Feel free to throw some
I would
questions out.
overwhelmed with questions. I mean, let's start with what's it feel like to be beamed? Oh wait, that's a special effect, isn't it?
Hey, I'm just as much of a fan. I nerded out when they said that we're going to be using the transporter sequence. I'll tell you, I enjoyed every minute of it. You just standing there on the pad, and they say, we're going to do certain things, act like you're going to be beaming, and then we're going to do the post processing side of it. It was cool actually doing it and then seeing it on the screen. I'm like, hell yeah!
How cool is that?
Oh, so cool.
I'm so jealous.
And I don't care how uncanny, how wrong those patches are on my jacket where it says USS Enterprise. I will now say I was a crew member of the USS Enterprise. It was on my jacket.
That's
If I change canon, please do.
I've got to tell a story, and I've probably told this story on the podcast before. But there was a time in the early '90s when I was actually handed a free ticket to a Star Trek convention, and I walked into Brent Spiner's piece, and some guy in the audience stood up and asked in a very long, drawn-out way how it felt to have his arm removed in episode whatever and scene whatever when they were dismantling Data. I remember Brent Spiner going, you know it's a TV show, right? It was just so classic, like Shatner's Get a Life bit, but I saw it in real life. It was pretty darn funny. So, but to stand on a transporter pad, I actually am in awe that you got to do that. So.
It was cool because that was if you saw Under the Cloak of War, when he's having his PTSD scene in the sonic shower, I was in that transporter sequence there. When we're coming back from the war with the Klingons and all that prosthetics and stuff that you see on me in the photos, that's what it was for, and you don't even see it. I'm like, come on. I'm like, it's so cool. It was so cool. It gave me the passion to keep going forward and to want to do more.
Excellent.
Star Trek gave me that acting bug, and it's been one hell of an itch since.
That's awesome. That's very cool. Keep going, DB. What other kind of question?
Well, because I was not on the first time you were on with us, you were on Strange New Worlds. Is that correct?
Yes, it was.
Okay, I haven't. I've seen part of one episode, and I fell in love with it. But then I said I got to go back and I've got to watch Discovery so I can get up to speed in the timeline. So right now I'm going through Discovery. So I have not seen your episode yet. I got to admit that. So
season 2, episode 8? No, season 2, episode 6 of Strange New Worlds, Under the Cloak of War.
I might have to just go watch that one episode just so I can say, hey, I know that guy.
Well, you'll see me a few times, and like I said, it's a dream come true, right? Like, it's not every day you get to work on a Star Trek set, and Star Trek's just as big as Star Wars is, right? 2 of the biggest IPs out there.
Yeah, I love both of them, and I'm sad Scruffy's not here because we like to pick on him because we haven't got him fully converted to Trek yet. So,
well, hopefully next one, hopefully is I'm wearing a Jedi robe. Hopefully down the road. So
yeah,
I've done one. I want to do the second one.
Right on. DB, I'm going to show you. So last time we had Dave on, he had given us a little sizzle reel. So I'm going to throw that up on
please.
Screen really quick so you can kind of see that.
Yeah, there's me about to go to the slaughter. There's some of the Moon of Jugal. All that prosthetics for that. I'm like, oh, come on. But it was so cool, though.
But it lends authenticity. That's what matters.
Right. So there he is right there. And then let's see, where were we on the rest?
You have to freeze it right now. Yeah. But also those 3 soldiers walking out of the barracks. That was the one in the back as well too.
Okay.
Yeah, right there, the first guy in the transporter. It's so quick, like.
Yeah.
But it's so cool. It's.
Yeah.
It'll last with me a lifetime.
Right on. And it's not like any of us can say we've been on set. So yeah, no, very cool. Any experience really is.
Where is it filmed at?
So Discovery was filmed in Toronto as well too, and so was Strange New Worlds. Picard was shot in California, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, I thought maybe it was in Toronto. So
yeah,
so many things filmed here.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, it's not bad for your only second ever acting job, right? You land right into Star Trek.
Oh man,
it's not a bad one. It's not a bad
no
job.
Hey, look how many careers Star Trek launched. Just look at all the guest stars going back to the original series.
Exactly.
You could be the next one.
And some of the biggest actors in the world right now were extras and BG actors at one point, right? So
yeah.
You don't know if you don't try.
That's right. Right on. Yeah, and Scruffy wanted to pass along. He loved Thanksgiving. Thought that was great. Scruffy definitely loves his good horror films.
I love Thanksgiving. I've grown up watching Halloween and all that, during AMC Fear Fest, and the minute I heard that they were filming Thanksgiving, I was like, please. But I was hoping for a gruesome death scene. Didn't happen, but
you were in Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I was this Raymar security guard at the protest scene at the store.
Let's see, we talked about seeing that one way back when it came out, and we never did. We're so bad. We're like, oh, that looks good, and then we never have time. So now I got more reason to watch stuff, and we love horror. So
there you go.
Think of like how OG Halloween Scream kind of vibes, like 80s, 90s slasher movie, but the death scenes are over the top.
Gonna have to watch it.
It was
right on.
Excellent.
Right on. And hopefully you've got some more gigs lined up. I'm sure you can't talk about them, but yeah, so we're going to continue to look for you on the screen there, Dave. Absolutely, without a doubt, and see where we can find you. And I'm gonna, after this, I'm definitely going to look up that Umbrella Academy. Very underrated show. I like that show, and definitely going to be looking for that. Well, we brought you on tonight. Acolyte is done. Season 1 is in the books. So I thought we would kind of talk about that for a little while on the show. We got all 8 episodes. We have not really done any episodes just purely on Acolyte. We've had a lot of guests on recently, but we've kind of touched on each of the episodes. It was billed as a mystery. It was billed as a story of the Sith. And it definitely has gotten mixed reviews across the board, across the fandom, for sure, from people that have liked it, thought it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and to, of course, the trolls that are gonna bomb anything just in order just to do it. And I think Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb is a testament to that, because when you start getting thousands of 1-star ratings before the episode's even aired, then it's a little skewed, I think. But episode 8's the only one we haven't really touched on, so we'll touch on that, and we'll kind of do a season wrap up of the show. But season 8 was the finale. A lot of people, after episode 7, a lot of people were talking about, well, how are they going to wrap this up? There's too many loose ends. There's too many questions, and how are they going to wrap it up? And when I heard that discourse online, I just sat back and chuckled, because I was like, we said the same thing about Bad Batch too, when we got to episode 14 out of 15, and we are like, how are they going to wrap it up? And they did. And so I figured they'll wrap it up somewhat. And I'd heard some interview with Leslie Headland that said that it does come to a definitive end. Yes, it leaves some openings for a season 2, but definitely comes to an ending, so that if they don't get a season 2, it could stand alone on its own. But in season or episode 8, entitled "The Acolyte," we find some predictable things. I think people had predicted Osha and May kind of switch places, which had, in terms of the final outcomes, everything kind of ends up where it started on Brendock, where the original issue started. You have it starts off with May and Saul, and they're back at Brendock, and then she uses Evil Pip to escape and jump in the little right, he's got red eyes now. So he's Evil Pip, and jumps in the escape craft, chases it through Saul chases her through the rings, and then probably the biggest WTF moment of the episode for me was Basil pulling those wires, because he thought Saul was gonna blast May out of space, which doesn't kind of make sense in a way. I was kind of thinking he was going to lock on with a tractor beam or something, but Basil just throws the monkey wrench into the situation. She crash lands. Saul follows her. Meanwhile, back on the unknown planet, Chimere and Osha, actually, it opens with her with the helmet on, which was kind of cool. It spikes her. I think it spikes her powers to the point where even Chimere is struggling to overpower her to get the helmet back off. He kind of goes into that shadow realm or whatever it is that we saw in the flashback episodes with Mother Annis. I can't even remember her name.
Anesthesia.
Yeah, we called her Anesthesia on the show. Just because I can never remember the proper name. But so that kind of that shadow realm, he's kind of getting sucked into it, showing her power, which for me, that scene showed that he really was not the master. And this was before we got to see the reveal of his master. But it kind of showed me that he wasn't the master, just because I think he was kind of surprised by how her power spiked like that. And he was struggling to get out of it. But in the end, they decided to go to Brendock as well. Saul turns on his transponder beacon, so now Venestra knows where to go find them. So something I noticed. So I gotta give them credit, and we'll talk about this more in the wrap up, because they definitely laced in a lot of lore into the show. On a lot of different things, but they also worked in a couple funny bits, which I enjoyed. One of which I think was a Spaceballs reference to the show in the character of Mog, Vernestra's assistant, because you cannot tell me, and especially look at the hair, look at the way his hair is, and look at that centerpiece on John Candy from Spaceballs, who's a Mog. Half man, half dog, and you can't tell me that wasn't done on purpose. So kudos to them for the meta joke there. I truly appreciate it. But so they go to Brendock. They're heading to Brendock. On Brendock, Saul, May, Osha, and Chimere end up in the old ruins of where the Coven lived. Saul and Chimere are battling it out, and I'm not sure if this was the fight scene that Leslie said was going to rival Revenge of the Sith, and we can talk about our thoughts there, but or not. But I mean, it was an interesting fight scene. I don't think I don't think it matched up to Revenge of the Sith, but still a decent fight scene unto itself. And then meanwhile, Osha and May are fighting it out, and then the four of them come together, of course, and we get the semi-sacrificial death of Saul, and which definitely the way they took his character bummed me out. I can see why, but in the end, it still bummed me out. And we get to see our first Kyber crystal bleeding in live action, which was very cool. and then Osha kills Saul for him killing her mom, and then they basically all take off when the Jedi get there. There's a little scene we confirm that Chimere was the Padawan of Ernestra, the way that she senses his presence and is like, you. And he has an oh shit moment and throws his helmet, his Magneto helmet back on. And yeah, and then they escape. The twins escape in the Cloud City tunnel that's down below. Definitely had Cloud City vibes, which I liked. I was okay with that. And they decide to wipe, or Osha decides, well, I'll go train with you. Where after at the beginning of the episode, she said she wouldn't train with him. And as long as May is allowed to be taken by the Jedi. So we did get a Plagueis cameo early on in the episode. And we get a Yoda cameo at the very end of the episode. So that's kind of in a nutshell. That's episode 8. What are some initial thoughts from you guys? Dave, we'll start with you.
It's tough. Like, you only have so many episodes. You only have such a short episode length. So I think that's where a lot of the show really struggled to really pull out the story. It should have been longer, in my personal opinion, just so you can flush out the story better, not having to rush such and such. But I thought it was definitely one of the best episodes of the season or series so far. There's no doubt about it.
DB?
It became slightly predictable. You knew none of the Jedi involved in the original incident could survive. And I'm really bummed out about that because Soul really grew on me as a wise Jedi. And I don't think the fight in the last episode was nearly as good as the free-for-all a few episodes back with all the Jedi. That was amazing to me. This one was kind of like a one-on-one, more martial arts oriented. The internet really had problems with the bleeding lightsaber. I did not have a problem with that. And I was a little frustrated with the 73 endings that felt like Lord of the Rings, where there's an epilogue and then another epilogue and then another epilogue. And oh my God, is this going to end? For a 30, 35-minute show, the last 5 minutes dragged to me because you knew where the story was. And yeah, the show overall had plenty of quirks, but it's Star Wars. I mean, go back to A New Hope and the Stormtrooper nailing his head on the doorway. Okay. Dialogue's always been quirky and weird. A lot of people didn't like the show. I thought it was fine. I haven't disliked anything that Disney has put out so far. Some of it's been better, definitely. But I think people were misled by the title, The Acolyte, because they want you to think the story's about the twins. At least this first season, the story was about Soul and his inner torment. Mm-hmm. And there was really only way to end it with his death. Okay, now we go into chapter 2. You're going to be looking at something totally different if they get a season 2. But overall, I enjoyed the show. I thought the acting was really strong, and I'm sorry they killed off Yord and Jecki because I think we could have had plenty of good stories there. Yeah, I rambled on too much at this point. Sorry.
No, and that kind of transitions into talking about the season as a whole. It's funny to touch on something you just mentioned, which was, it was billed as the Acolyte, and like I said at the beginning of the show, it's kind of billed as a story of the Sith, but yeah, in the end, it was really more about the starting of the downfall of the Jedi. It seemed like more than anything. And when you said what it reminded me of when you just said that, DB, was another Star Wars show that is not about the title character. And where the title character kind of takes a side role, and this one actually kind of, in a way, kind of does as well. Ahsoka was about a lot of the characters, and Mando became kind of more about the other characters and building the universe and stuff. But let's start off with the two fights, the two big fights. We had the fight in Night that you referred to, DB, and then we had the fight in this finale. And what are some thoughts about the two fights?
It was nice to see the Jedi, in their heyday, and they still got their butts kicked by one guy in a Smilo Ren mask. I would have liked to seen some more of what happened. They cut that off at the end of one episode and picked it up at another, and then got it down to your main characters. I thought those were very well choreographed fights in that particular episode. The last episode, it was okay. It was just seemed too short for me.
What did you think about in terms of the kind of bringing the whole martial arts aspect into the style of fighting in Star Wars?
I'm okay with it. It's more interesting than, just, I don't know, an 80s action movie fist fight. I'm thinking the end of Lethal Weapon, stuff like that. I was kind of digging the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon aspect there in episode 8. I didn't even mind the slow motion fall.
That definitely screamed, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Dave, thoughts about that? Like, did you like one of the fights better than the other, or what'd you think about the different style of fighting in this show?
I liked it. Like, I think we all can universally agree, like, these lightsaber fights have been the best that Disney's produced under the Star Wars brand yet. Definitely better than anything they put out in the sequel trilogy. These definitely felt more closer to the original series, so not the prequel series kind of quality of lightsaber fights that we didn't see in Rise of Skywalker, Last Jedi, Force Awakens.
Mm-hmm.
But it felt to me like a lot of the lightsaber battles felt more like live action of the Clone Wars that we saw, because if I'm not mistaken, I think we saw a lot more martial art kind of style in the Clone Wars.
That's an interesting parallel. I like that.
Then a lot of your actors also are, of Asian descent, so I'm sure that brings a lot of their background and experience as well too into Star Wars. Yeah, it was definitely the best I've seen since the Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Sith for lightsaber choreography. There's no doubt about that.
I for the style that it was, I liked it. I appreciated it. And with Scruffy and I recorded with Force Dyad podcast last night, and we were talking about Acolyte as well. And one of the things that I think that they did right to bring this style of fighting in was to introduce it at the very beginning with Carrie-Anne Moss, because everyone, most people, believe it or not, Scruffy has not seen The Matrix, but I know. We discovered that last night. And anyway,
you know what I'm assigning for DB's Blockbuster, right?
Right. So I think to use Carrie-Anne Moss, because as it was, she was one of the flagship actors billed for the show, and I liked how they used her in the very first episode, because everybody knows Trinity and the style of fighting from Matrix, and the kind of revolution that brought into choreography in film at the time, and there's already a subconscious bond. When you put Carrie-Anne Moss into that situation doing that style of fighting, people at a subconscious level are already kind of like, okay, I accept that because I've seen this before. It's something Star Wars, sometimes they forget that they have to do something familiar, but still introduce something new. And a lot of times it's ships and universe building and backgrounds and stuff like that. In this case, it was the fighting. So they brought in Carrie-Anne Moss, had her fight Matrix style with May, and or Matrix influenced, and people were kind of like, okay, you know what? Whereas if they had gone with one of the other actors, which we didn't know as well, I think there would have been more complaining right off the bat. People are like, that's not Star Wars fighting. They don't fight like that in that universe. But because it was Carrie Ann Moss or Trinity, I think people were more accepting of it. And I also think they made the right call killing her off in the first episode, because again, she's such a well-known actress. I think she would have overpowered the rest of the cast. It would have been the Trinity show for a lot of it, instead of really allowing, because we got to see more of Saul in the beginning. When you went to the flashbacks with Carrie Ann Moss, she wasn't overpowering then, because we had already bought into Saul at that point. We had already started to create that emotional bond. Also, killing Carrie Ann Moss off in the first episode, because we don't know anything. Most people, other than the dedicated High Republic fans, most people don't know much about High Republic era. So I think with, again, everybody knowing Carrie Ann Moss, you kill her off. Just in that first 8-10 minutes, you already have an emotional connection with that character because of the actress. And when you see her die, you understand that there's some stakes here. Oh my gosh, they killed off somebody important. Whereas if it had been another actor or actress that we didn't know, the emotional connection, I don't think would have been strong right from the get-go.
Yeah.
So I think they nailed that right in the beginning for sure. And then, I like the fact that they had this style of fighting throughout. Now, I'm still a big fan of Balin and Ahsoka's first duel on what was that planet with the Stonehenge temple thing. But I thought that fight was really good, but it was a different style. It was much more your samurai versus your European knight fighting style, and I appreciated that. But I think this is a whole new thing. And like you said, David, I think it's some of the best choreography. I think my opinion, Night was the best fight, the Night episode, just because of the use of the helmet and the bracers and the cortosis and we hadn't seen it before. It was new. And I think that so like when we got to the finale, it was kind of like, well, we've kind of seen this already, kind of, sort of. So it wasn't as shocking. I think Night was just such a shocking fight. What did you guys think about the cast of the characters? What were some of your favorites about the characters? And Dave, will kind of start with you on that one.
You gotta give Soul so much credit for a person that never spoke a word of English before the Acolyte.
Mm-hmm.
All credit to the man. What a hell of a performance he did for never speaking a word of English in his life, and to knock out that kind of a performance, just brilliant. It just proves how well their casting for the show was. Kamira was another standout as well too. I would like to have seen more with them involved,
mm-hmm.
but obviously, Karen, it's Trinity. We all love Trinity. We've all grown up with the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
I've played all the Matrix video games back in the early 2000s. So we love it. There's a couple of tweaks that maybe I might have done myself personally, but Kamira and Saul were the standouts by far.
Right on. DB.
I thought the acting was pretty impeccable, and I'm going to mispronounce his name, but I think it's Lee Jung-jae, the played Soul. I mean, I was blown away by Squid Game.
Yes.
I was just captivated by Squid Game, and I thought, who is this guy to play such desperation? If you've not seen Squid Game, by all means, you haven't seen it, Dave?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's good.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard he was cast in this, I had no idea he didn't speak English. And wow. I loved the character. I loved his embodiment of the character. And I think, Brown Leader, you and I have talked about this, how he kind of based his performance off of Liam Neeson's performance as Qui-Gon. And I felt that every step of the way. But I also liked that we had Yord, who was kind of he wasn't a Padawan, but he wasn't a master, but he's a very straight and narrow Jedi. And then you got Jecki, who's, I'm all gung ho. Yet, I mean, you had a trifecta of Jedi, and we didn't get to see more adventures, and that bothers me.
Mm.
But Amandla Steenberg, is that how
Stenberg? Yeah,
Stenberg.
Stenberg. Yep.
I mean, in a dual role. I mean, and there were subtle differences between May and Osha. Amazing. And what can you say about Chimere? I mean, dude, he's one of the best villains they've come up with. I mean, in the Disney era for sure.
Yeah, I'd put him just up there with Krennic for
Yeah.
the Disney era.
Oh yeah. No, and some of his line deliveries. I mean, during that fight in Night, you know, and it's like, oh, was that its name? Or, you know, when Saul's like, she was just a child, you killed her, and he's like, well, you brought her here. And I mean, it was just his ruthlessness, and his self-assured ruthlessness, and I appreciated that as a character.
He had this subtle thing he would do with his head, like, really? Are you kidding me? You know, without saying it, he'd be like, come on.
Yeah. Back on Soul's character, yeah, when I saw part of an interview with Leslie that she said when she was writing this show, she was watching Squid Game, and that's how she wrote the role of Soul just for him, or with him in mind, and getting him for the show. Because yeah, his character in Soul or in Squid Game is really good as well. Like desperation, like you said, that the acting of desperation. For me, yeah, definitely. I know some people online, because of course everybody likes to complain online. People were like, well, they didn't do enough character development with Jecki and Yord before they died, and and that leads towards another side conversation of, was 8 episodes enough? And we can touch on that in a second. But I think with Yord and Jecki, I think the shock of them getting killed so soon, because they did have some character development, you at least got a sense of who they were. Yord was the young knight who just he's only been a knight for 2 years. So he's got the confidence of passing the trials and being a new knight and being in the position with a puffed up chest, because he's learned it all. He's now a knight, but without the seasoning, without the years of experience to teach the wisdom. And I thought he portrayed that really well. Jecki to me is what Ahsoka would have been if Plo Koon had been her master, a little bit sassy, questioning authority, but still respectful and following the rules when she knew she had to. And I think I think what they were doing with those characters was they were giving them just enough character development, but not too much, so that when they died, it was one of those, like, you don't know what you have until it's gone kind of feeling. So it was like, it's like, what? I want more. I want more now, and it made and yeah, I wouldn't mind some side adventure of I liked the 3 of them, Saul, Jecki, and Yord. I thought that was a good dynamic of characters, the different personalities.
I felt the same thing as well too with Rogue One, with those characters, same kind of thing as well too. You want more, but
yes,
yeah, no, right on, spot on.
Well, and the fact that they gave both Yord and Jecki ridiculously violent deaths.
Yeah, ballsy.
I mean, yes, I mean, yeah.
It's about time.
Yeah. Oh, I give the show complete kudos on that part alone, just the body count, and not afraid to do it. And kudos to them on that.
Yord to me felt like Anakin in Attack of the Clones. He's this big, powerful Jedi, but then he gets his butt handed to him by Count Dooku, just like Chimere did.
Yeah.
A more experienced person.
Yeah. I think that touching back on the fights really quick, I know the 2 moments of frustration I had with the show were both fights where Saul had Chimere beat and he didn't kill him. And both times I was literally yelling at the screen, and I'm not one that reacts out loud very often, but I know the first in the night fight, I was like, chop his head off. I was saying it out loud. I'm like, chop his head off. Just frickin'. I didn't say frickin', but I was like, just chop his head off. Yeah, right.
Do it.
And it was like, really? And I'm like, I was so frustrated because I'm like, you're right there. Just end it, but no, I'm glad he didn't in the first fight, just because we got more Chimera out of that. And what did you guys think about the cameos that we had? So we had Plagueis, and then we had Yoda. Do you guys feel like the cameos were good? Would you have liked to see more, or do you think they were unnecessary? And DB, we'll start with you on this one.
I think they're twofold. One, it gives the audience craving more, and B, Headland was brilliant in including them to kind of twist arms at Disney to give a season 2. I mean, and it was just enough, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Dave,
I would have liked to see more Plagueis. If this is, but I know a lot of people said if this was going to be Plagueis, they would rather see it like 50 years before the Phantom Menace. That kind of Darth Plagueis with him and Palpatine, whatever. Palpatine. I kind of would have liked to have seen Plagueis, the one that killed Saul. I wasn't sold on Osha killing a renowned Jedi Master. It just felt out of place to me. If Plagueis had done it, I could have maybe been like, okay, he just got destroyed by an even more powerful person in the galaxy, right? But seeing Yoda, it was cool. But I could have done without Yoda, but I think I would have taken more Plagueis. Because I think Plagueis could have been the ultimate one, just to snap Soul's neck, just being a master manipulator, right? But he's not really that, because he's more. Because I know with the Legends, he wasn't in the shadows, right? Because he was head of the banking clans. I kind of like to have seen more him not in the shadows, him more doing the Sith grand plan. But that's just me nitpicking.
No, that's a legit point. I mean, totally. Because you bring him in and you just tease him, right? And I think it was DB. I think you had a good point where it was maybe Headland's way of just trying to guarantee a season 2, for sure. And I think we touched on it earlier, where we said, if there had been more Plagueis, maybe it would have been too much, and it would have been the Plagueis show at that point. But what you brought up, Dave, was, so should this show have been more than 8 episodes so that we could dive into more stories like that? Was the season maybe a little too rushed? Or I know towards the last couple episodes, like I was real into the May Osha thing in the beginning, right from that first crashed when the Jedi prison ship crashes, and you have the first of the young version of the twins talking to each other on that ice planet. And I was real interested at that point, and it's not anything due to the actresses. I thought they were fine, but I just started losing interest in the last couple episodes with May and Osha. It just didn't seem, and I don't know if maybe it was just I wanted to see more Chimera and more Saul. I don't know, but should they? So for me, I'm not sure if I would have wanted to see more episodes, because in a way I was kind of glad they wrapped it up. But do you guys think they should have taken their time? Dave, you'd mentioned the length of the episodes. A lot of them were just right around 30, 33, 34 minutes. Should they have done, more of a Bad Batch style where they're all 30, 35 minutes, but you get 15 episodes? Or should they have done maybe Andor where, 12 episodes? What's kind of, what do each of you think would have been a good format for this story? Dave, we'll start with you.
Yeah, well, just look at what HBO do with their shows. Like, look what Amazon does with The Boys. You get full hour episodes. You don't have to rush. You don't have to keep doing mystery box after mystery box after mystery box. House of the Dragon, look at the positive reviews that's been getting. And, those are long episodes. But for me, for a series with $190 million budget, I expect more.
Yeah, DB.
I think they could have had more episodes on their budget, because not everything has to be an expensive special effect. You can have more exposition and dialogue, on board ships or in settings, to flesh things out a little bit more. I would have liked to have seen another, say, 4 episodes. But one thing I did notice about this show is that each episode picks up immediately where the last one ends. There's no time jump or lapse in anything. It's one continuous story. If you were to watch it, boom, boom, boom. I mean, except for the 16 you get.
It
Yeah.
feels like a movie. It feels
exactly.
like a movie brought down into 8 episodes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I was listening to our friends over at who was it? Records of the Republic on my way home from work today, and they were doing their wrap up episode, and one of the guys over there, after the season was over, went back and rewatched it in a different order. He watched it in chronological order, where it was the first 2 flashback episodes and then the rest of the show. And he said it gave him a slightly different experience watching it in that order, which I thought was kind of interesting. Number of episodes for me, yeah, probably 10 maybe. Like little bit of exposition, a little more exposition in certain parts. It doesn't, they could have stretched things out. But Dave, and you touched on it with budget. So $190 million show. I think I don't watch House of Dragon. Is that what's currently out on the other series show? Is that House of Dragon? I think
for HBO, and then
yeah,
the boys are all hour episodes too.
So, but like House of Dragon, I've been listening to Rule of the Galaxy. They're big fans over there, and talking about 200 million. You got 2 more episodes. They're all an hour long, and the special effects are just off the chart, I guess, on that show compared to. And that's where I'm bridging over to is the budget and what we got for production. If anything, was my biggest nitpick, and I. Again, it's just a nitpick. If I want to focus on it, don't really focus on it. But I can understand why a lot of fans were a little disgruntled with the finished look of the show. Leslie did say in interviews that she didn't want to use the volume. She wanted everything to be as practical as possible. And in my opinion, I think it wouldn't have hurt for her to use a little bit of the volume to give some of that scenery depth. You could definitely tell you've got your episode 6 day. You got a little bit of the Lord of the Rings feel because they're actually in the outside world filming them walking across the planet of Kofar, and then they go into the soundstage of the Kofar forest, and it felt that way, like they were going from reality into a soundstage, and a small soundstage too. That as cool as the night battle was, you definitely could feel the enclosed space that they were operating within. And I've tried to let it go. It's like I said, it's a nitpick, but for 190 million dollars,
this is more than Revenge of the Sith cost.
Right.
It was a movie in 2003,
5, yeah.
Right.
And that movie's what, 20, almost 20 years old, and arguably looks better.
Yeah. Thank you for making me feel old too, Dave.
I am old.
I'm old.
Seeing that.
Yeah, you know what?
$190 million budget's ridiculous.
Yeah, and
I think they said Severance is costing like $200 million for Apple TV. I'm like, where are these budgets coming from? Where are they going?
Yeah, where are they going? That's the question. I was a little surprised by that. I like Severance. Whether 20 million an episode for that, I don't know about that. That seems a bit steep compared to what I mean. From what I saw of season 1 and the production value of season 1, that's not 20 million an episode for sure. And yeah, you do have to. It's a legitimate question. Where'd the money go on this one? Because Star Wars is built as a cinematic universe. It was built as a big and grandiose universe. And again, I'm not opposed to them experimenting. They want to try something new, different feel, smaller scale. Okay, but you're going up against what is established, which is a big mass cinematic, and even Favreau is able to replicate that to an effect with the volume, for Mando, and Ahsoka felt a little smaller at times. Mando felt a little bigger, and I think it goes back to your experience of your showrunner. Leslie comes from theater, I believe, and TV and streaming, whereas somebody like a Favreau comes from movies, big movies, Marvel, Jungle Book, Disney, and I think some of that experience has something to do with it. But I can understand why some people for $190 million would be like, you could have made it look a little bigger, and with Lucasfilm is fast approaching 50 years of experience. This is a Lucasfilm project. It's not unreasonable. Yeah,
Mandalorian looked great.
It's not unreasonable to expect a better looking product in the end.
Yeah, Mandalorian looked great. Season 1 and 2 looked absolutely fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Brown Leader, when you're just talking about how you can tell when they go from outside onto the soundstage, and I have been trying to find a way to express exactly what you were talking about, because I felt that way. To me, it felt like the night episode, the battle episode. It felt like the Wizard of Oz, where they're going down the yellow brick road, but they are obviously on a soundstage.
Yeah,
and that's the best comparison or analogy that I come up with for what you've been expressing.
No, that's
my head to process.
That's a really good, that's a really good comparison. You're right, because like the forest scene, and with the monkeys. Yep, you're absolutely, yep.
And and The Wizard of Oz is a classic movie, and I won't ever diss it. So
no, and I mean, and the night battle was still a kick-ass battle. The choreography, the fighting, I mean, it was great. It was a great, and half the episode was battle, just pure battle for half the episode, which was kind of cool in of itself. But yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable. I've let it go because in the end I can't change it. So I've learned to let it go in terms of every day I try to embrace my inner rural farm boy and just let it all go and just tell me a story and just enjoy it.
Oh, RFB.
And to find the fun in it, because there was some fun for sure. And what did you guys think about the expansion of the viewpoints on the Force? So we had the Coven and the concept of the Force being a thread and pulling the threads. And did you guys like that expanding the whole lore of the Force concept? DB.
I have no problem with it, because going back to Lucas, in the late 70s, early 80s, said the Force is religion, boiled down into this. You can take aspects of any religion here on earth and it's the Force. Okay, take a look at Christianity. How many different branches of Christianity are there? All right, why can't there be different ways of worshiping the Force? If these witches are on this planet for generations, they may not have had contact with anybody else. They've developed their own relationship with the Force. I have no problem with what they've done here.
Dave.
Well, we've seen it in the Clone Wars with the Night Sisters, right?
Yeah.
So it's nothing new. And then we saw it in Rogue One with Donnie Yen's character, where he really, worshipped the Force, but he didn't have Force powers, right? So it's nothing new. I think the special effects could have been a lot better, but I think they were trying to go with the Night Sister magic, like what we had in Clone Wars. It just didn't look as, obviously it's a lot harder to do.
Right.
But yeah, it's nothing we haven't seen before. We saw it in Rogue One briefly. We saw it in the Clone Wars and in Rebels as well too, right? So it's nothing new. It's cool. Yeah,
right on.
for it.
Yeah.
Right on.
The Mortis gods,
Yeah. Oh yeah, Mortis gods. There was some trippy Clone Wars stuff. That's for sure. Not just with the Mortis gods, but there was that whole psychedelic trip Yoda took with what were those creatures? So I thought it was great. I liked the expanse of the lore. I thought some of that was some of the definitely more interesting aspects of the show. All right. So do you think there will be, we'll kind of bring it together, which is, do you think it did a good enough job to get a season 2? Do you think there will be a season 2? And if so, what's something you'd like to see in season 2? Dave, we'll start with you.
I know two of my personal friends did not like the Acolyte. They liked the concept of the show better than the show delivered. And maybe with a different person in charge, maybe I could with a different person in charge, in a different ways, style of, doing all the editing and everything like that. It's tough. Like, that's one of the first shows to ever have its, tomato score taken off.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of other shows that have been critiqued, but not many of them have had their Rotten Tomatoes audience scores taken down.
Right.
It's tough. Like, I think they did a lot of things good with this show, but I think they might have done a lot of things that just makes the fan base more and more toxic. Unfortunately, Star Wars is a very toxic fan base anymore, it seems, unlike a certain fan base right here.
Subtle.
Are you saying they're more logical over there?
Just a little bit more logical. I would be okay. I'd like to see a second season of the Book of Boba Fett, but I want to see the Book of Boba Fett, the same Fett that we saw in The Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see that guy come out again.
Right.
So as long as they can critique it better and give fans just better quality, yeah, I'd be okay with it. I want to see more. I want to see the rise of Palpatine. I want to see Darth Plagueis' story. So if they go in that direction, give me a season 2.
And DB, before I ask you the same question, David brought up a good point, which was editing, which we didn't talk about. So kind of a two-part question, which is, one, do you think they had I felt like they had kind of a liberal usage of screen wipes. They used it a lot as a transition tool. Did they use it too much? What did you think about the editing or anything on that production side of, the finishing product?
Well, wipes are just quintessential Star Wars. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there may have been overuse. And for shows that were only lasting 30, 35 minutes, we spent a lot of time with establishing shots. Mm-hmm. Use your time more wisely. We've already kind of talked about that, but I don't need to see a complete drone flyover of the fortress, just kind of pan in, go, here they are, that's just a personal opinion. I don't think it made the show bad or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. And then this is open to both of you guys. What about music? What did you guys think about because music is kind of a big component of a Star Wars show. We've gotten some great results out of the Kiners. We've gotten, Ludwig Göransson scores. We've had some amazing music to tie in with the shows. How did you guys feel about the music for this one?
Go ahead, Dave. I'm going to go first. Oh, okay. I thought it was good. It felt more prequel era, which it should. But nothing is standing out to me. I was a bit taken aback by, I think it was episode 7, where they had vocals on the end credits. We've never had that in Star Wars before. Great song. I really enjoyed it was mysterious. Mm-hmm. But you didn't need to slap me in the face with the message of the song. I just watched the episode, So I thought, kind of like when Star Trek Enterprise came out and there were vocals on the opening credits and people lost their friggin' minds about it.
Been a long road.
Sing it for us, Dave. Come on.
No chance. I am not a good karaoke person.
Yeah.
No chance.
Dave, what did you think about the music and how it was utilized in the show?
Forgetful.
Okay.
That book, the Boba Fett soundtrack was great. The opening theme music, iconic. A lot of this show is very forgetful.
Interesting.
Sadly.
Yeah, and for me, I don't usually notice the music the first time I watch it, because if it's so integrated into the story and the telling of the story. Music used the right way helps push the passion or the emotion of a scene. And some of the other streaming services, I'm a huge Ludwig Göransson fan now because of Book of Boba, because of Mando. I found the music in this one at times, not always, but on certain scenes sometimes, and I almost take it more to the editing of the music selection for certain scenes sometimes seem to be just a little off. And I know it, it felt like certain, like especially the whole episode where Chimera is grooming Osha, to try to win her over. And at times it felt like the music was not, I didn't mind the music in of itself. The music was fine. It was just, was it the right music choice for that scene? Sometimes seemed just a little bit off. Not always, but sometimes. And yeah, the song with the lyrics, you know what? Good for them for trying something new. You know.
Are we just spoiled though? Because we've had so many years of John Williams's
right
soundtracks. Is nothing just even comes close, except for the Ludwig, stuff in Book of Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the Kiners have done a great job on the animation side, for sure. Without a doubt. Bad Batch, Clone Wars, Rebels, they've done a fantastic job with again, just integrating it where it's an essential part of the show. But okay, yeah.
Look at 2003, 2005 when the prequels come out. We all had our surround sound systems and everything. I could blast that Revenge of the Sith soundtrack, and it's just so iconic. Like, I don't think Disney's doing this, replicating the same.
Yeah. I mean,
it's John Williams, the man.
Right.
Star Wars, he did what? Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Indiana Jones. Yeah.
Indiana Jones, the man's a genius.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we'll start to bring it back around. So DB, following up with you in terms of, do you think there'll be a season 2? And if so, what would you like to see in a season 2?
I am hopeful there will be a season 2. It might be in Disney's best interest to not release it until, say, after the Mandalorian film comes out, when people are riding a high again. Because there was so much hate for this show. But I think it has opened doors, especially season 2 would have to involve Plagueis for certain. And I would like to see kind of what they've done, bridging the originals to the sequels, in the live action. I think we might get the chance to see bridging the High Republic into the prequels. And I mean, wouldn't it be great to see Plagueis, meet a young Palpatine? Come here, little Sheev. I want to show you something. No, that sounds wrong. But
now you're going back to the skinny dipping scene. So
I'm glad Mrs. DB didn't watch this show with Chimera being shirtless half the time, and she was a big fan of Charlie Barnett, who played Yord. He was on Chicago Fire. So I'm like, no, Mrs. DB does not need to see all these muscular shirtless guys, because she's got to live with this. So
oh, that's funny. Yeah, it'll be interesting because I know Iger has talked about starting to pull back a little bit on streaming and being a little pickier. This week we're starting to see some groundswell, whether it's the crafty people in Lucasfilm marketing, or it's an actual groundswell, I don't know, but you're starting to see more love posts about Acolyte now that we're a week out. I think the Disney marketing machine, Lucasfilm marketing machine, will definitely try to kick in and push that a little bit. And that's their job. Why wouldn't they? I guess, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the review bombing is unfortunate. It's unwarranted. Sean from Forced Diet was talking about there's been over like 150,000 reviews for this show on all the episodes. and which is like astronomically high compared to Mando, and a lot of it being 1 stars, and it's like, and the number, and I've seen the post where they show the 1-star reviews coming out even before the episode's aired, and it's just it just undermines the whole review system when you do that, and there's no need for it. If you like it, if you don't, you don't, whatever, move on. But I guess it'll really depend on how I think it'll depend on how Iger's feeling about streaming and where they're at. I think financially, I think it'll come down to a financial decision at some point.
Like we always said, though, whatever Mandalorian season 1 and 2 did and Andor did, these other shows need to replicate it, because those were the peak of Star Wars for stream and stuff that we see, and some of the best content we've seen in Star Wars, period.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just go back. Whatever you did for those seasons, go and replicate it. Do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it with the new shows.
Yeah,
we all agree. Season 1 of Mandalorian and season 2 were probably the best stuff we've seen since the Revenge of the Sith, and obviously outside of Rogue One. So obviously they were doing something right.
Yeah. Those seasons are kind of the standard bearer for how a lot of people evaluate live stream shows now. How does it compare to those first seasons of Mando? Is it better? Is it worse? Is it the same? And it's funny how we keep going back to that as that mark, that benchmark. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right on that, Dave. Ubaldo threw us a question. Ubaldo, thank you for the question. I've been listening all this time. Do you guys feel that the fans are not ready to leave John Williams' music behind and hear a new composer? Great question. Yeah, because we're not going to, unfortunately, John's getting up there, and he retired, but that lasted a couple months, and then he came back, and he's writing more music, but we're not going to have him forever, unfortunately, and we're going to have Star Wars long after he's the original creators, him and Lucas and others have passed on, and so do we feel that the fans do we feel like we're not ready to leave John behind? Or are we ready to start hearing new composers?
I think we've already. With Goranson, just introduced a whole new style for a new style of show. Anything John Williams writes is amazing. I don't care if it's Mary Had a Little Lamb with an orchestral back piece. Okay, he will do amazing stuff with it. Okay,
sure.
But I can remember when Clone Wars first came out, and the pilot movie had been in theaters, and then they were starting to show the episodes. And Filoni came out back then and said, look, the music's going to be different in each episode depending on the theme of the episode. And some of them were more guitar oriented, and I was okay with that. Mm-hmm. I think the fans are going to have to learn that just like, in the what we call Legends era now, many different authors had their takes, but it was in books.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're just seeing it on TV. So, Headland is going to be different than Filoni. Your composers are going to be different, and hopefully it'll match up. But I think, Dave, you're right. The music in this was forgettable because nothing is standing out to me about it.
Yeah, and go ahead, Dave.
Well, look at Disney just needs to go out there and search the internet. There's enough great people out there that look at the person who did the re-editing for Luke Skywalker and The Mandalorian. That was some YouTuber out of nowhere with a computer. There's the talent out there. Find it. It's all over the internet. You could find these people left, right, and center, and I'm sure they could do just as good jobs with opportunities with, what John, obviously probably come close to what John Williams done. His reputation stands the test of time, but the talent is out there on the internet. Go find it. There's no excuse.
I love that idea.
There are some fan lightsaber fights that have done better than what we've seen on TV so far. The talent is out there. Go and find it.
Hey, you know what? That's how the band Journey found their current lead singer, was on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. You might onto something there, Dave.
Well, and I think what it is the show has got to establish what it is. They're trying to how the music fits the style of story that they're telling. Again, just like Mando seasons 1 and 2 established the benchmark for live stream Star Wars, John Williams, set the bar for music. It's always been big and orchestral and sweeping and just this huge audio wave that just takes us helps carry the journey along. And I think we've already found some of that with Goranson. I remember the first episode of Mando, very first, and you hear that different sound, that Goranson used, and I was like, it caught my attention because it wasn't John Williams, but it had some flavor and some feel that carried over. Again, something familiar, but took it in new directions. And then he really went over the top with Book of Boba Fett. I mean, the chanting and talk about huge and huge in scope of the music. That's some
outstanding. Rogue One? Who did Rogue One sound? Who did the music for Rogue One? Was it John Williams or somebody else?
I don't think it was Williams.
The music, that was great.
Yeah. You looking it up, DB?
I am looking it up.
I would love to see Gareth Edwards come back and do more Star Wars. Obviously there was production issues on Rogue One that we're all aware of, but Rogue One I would take Gareth Edwards again. The man did a hell of a job.
Rogue One's music was Michael Giacchino.
Michael Giacchino.
He did Lost, the TV show Lost for J.J. Abrams.
Okay. Oh, that makes sense.
And didn't he didn't do the new BSG, did he?
Oh, I don't. Oh, geez. No, that was Bear. Wasn't that Bear McCreary? I want to say that was Bear McCreary. I follow him on Twitter.
Bear McCreary and Richard Gibbs.
Yeah.
But see, there's a show that used unknown composers and they just set a style and tone that it's BSG.
Yeah. It definitely had its own distinct feel to it for sure.
The talent's out there. Just go find them.
Yeah.
Giving them the chance. They might be the next John Williams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, John Williams started by writing both themes to Lost in Space.
Oh, nice.
And they're both fantastic.
And then you had and then Andor was Nicholas Bertel. So again, good music. It was solid. It worked for the show. But yeah, I think again, I think the music it's got to fit the feel of the show. The music has always been kind of as cinematic as the images on the screen, and I think they were going for a cinematic feel with the music, but it didn't always. I think what it was it didn't always fit the cinematic image on the screen, maybe for me, and maybe that's kind of what was throwing me off a little bit. It wasn't bad music. I liked it was interesting using the violins at times to try to emote some of that the dark side things, but yeah, it was I just don't know if it was always used at the right time. All right, so Andor, any final thoughts on Andor, guys?
Andor,
sorry.
Season 2, come on.
Season 2.
It is now 3 years ago. Okay.
Yeah. No, any
can we not go back 3 years ago, please?
Right. Any final thoughts on Acolyte before we kind of move on? What are we, a good transition topic is what are we looking forward to down the road? What would we like to see? We've got Andor season 2 next year, most likely. We've got Skeleton Crew coming up, which will be part of the Mandoverse, I do believe. We've got the Lego Star Wars What If movie coming out. Darth Jar Jar, yeah. Definitely looking forward. The fact that they said it on screen is awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Or what kind of projects would we like to see Star Wars work on? They're working on more animation. So what are the things that we'd like to see down the road with Star Wars?
God, stop being cheap and go and do the Old Republic. Just give us this. Just give us the video games and live action,
Mm.
or even
Mhm.
go before give us the XR Kun days. Give us the Naga Sado days. Just make them live action. Obviously, they're starting to. I'll give Leslie Headland credit. She finally made Plagueis canon now.
Mhm.
Just do it. Give us the Mandalorian Wars. Mando's been so popular. We'd all love to see the Mandalorian Wars in live action.
Mhm. Yes, a Black Millennium Falcon. Can't wait to see that. That's going to be on a lot of collectors' shelves. That's for sure. As part of the Lego What If.
Can we see Hondo Anaka, please? Can we finally see? Hopefully, he's in Skeleton Crew.
That would be cool.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be very cool. Who would you cast as Hondo in live action? There you go, Dave.
You know what? I would second that. Let's get Dave Jones on there.
There
Come
we
on,
go.
give me Star Wars. Let's go.
There we go.
I'll use all the connections I have. Okay. Don't expect much.
Right. But yeah. So very cool. So
What
let's.
do you want to see?
I am. I'm actually looking forward to. Obviously, anytime you get into the Mando, I'm happy with anything in the Mandoverse. Give me more. I'm good with that. But I'd like to see. I'm very interested to see what they do with a Rey movie set after the sequels, like they've been talking about. Let those characters stand on their own 2 feet without the original trilogy characters. Let them have their own adventures, their own story. Let's see a new post Skywalker Saga universe and see what that looks like. I'm intrigued by that. Let them have their own trials and tribulations. And Old Republic for sure. Yeah, I'd like to see Old Republic. Love the games. Absolutely love the games.
Darth
And
Vader
then
series?
if done well, but I'm okay with jumping outside of the Skywalker saga. I mean, we've done a lot in the Skywalker saga. Not opposed to it, but we've done a lot. It's a big universe. There's a lot of stories that can be told, I'm sure, that don't necessarily have to be around.
More heir to the Empire?
I think we'll get a taste of that with Favreau's movie. I think we'll get some of that with where they're going with Thrawn and the Mandoverse. And the real question is, are they going to do their version of Mara Jade or not, right? I think that's the big question. And will they have, instead of Luke, will they have Ahsoka or something? I don't know. Comment from Ubaldi. I'll be honest, I'm having fun with all Star Wars stories. I don't want another Dark Times. And yeah, right on. The fact is we're still getting content. We still have stuff to talk about. In the end, I'm glad we got Acolyte. It expands the universe. It gives us more stories to talk about. With its the pros and cons of the show. I'm glad we have it. I'm glad it exists. I really do. Saul, great character. Chimere, great character. The body counts. I mean, all the positives that we talked about with the show. We wouldn't have had that otherwise. And I keep it rolling. Keep it going. Love to see that. There was something else I knew I was going to say that I was looking forward to, and I can't. I'll probably remember it right after we finish the show. But yeah. So just keep giving us more stories. I'm just looking forward to more content. Really,
if we're getting animated, you think we'll see more Tales of the Jedi?
Yeah, I do want to see them continue that series. I know what I was going to say. I would like to see a Rogue Squadron series, not a movie. I know they were going to have Patty Jenkins do a movie, but I would like to see Rogue Squadron, or change it to a Delphi Squadron, whatever you want to do. The Adelphi Rangers, but some sort of show like that, I think would be fun. I think you could make that into a more mature style of storytelling, Flash Gordon serial type of thing. Think back to your 80s shows like your A-Team and your Knight Rider and your things like that, a serial show kind of thing, but with Rogue Squadron. I think that'd be kind of fun. Your Black Sheep Squadron, that old show, but with X-Wings instead, right? And that's something I'd like to see.
Give me Poe. Put Poe in the pilot seat. I'll watch it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Poe. We didn't get enough of Poe Dameron.
Mm-hmm. And then what I'd really love to see, and longtime listeners will know this, and Carson or Paul, I know you're probably listening, but we'd really like to see Tiva and Reed, Intergalactic Popo, a Lethal Weapon style show featuring Carson Tiva and Lieutenant Max Reed. I think that'd be hilarious. But
I'd pay to see that.
I know, right? There you go, Ubaldo. Airwolf, right? Yeah, exactly. That kind of that something like that would be fun, I think. Working it around an X-Wing squadron.
Dave just said, put Poe in an X-Wing. You can almost do 2 generations. You could do a Star Trek thing here and have Rogue Squadron led by Wedge. You obviously have to recast that, but then you could have the next generation led by Poe. You could have 2 whole series of just adventures of these fighter pilots.
Oh yeah.
And if we can't have that, we need Resistance season 3.
Oh, stop. All right. And with that, we're signing off, and you have been listening to Hyperspace. How dare you say that?
but Kaz is such an amazing, complex character.
Don't
Dave, have you watched Resistance?
I did.
Yeah.
I don't.
And that's all he's going to say. I did.
It's been a while. These last couple of years have been a blur.
It's not the strongest of Star Wars series.
No. After Rebels, it's struggled for sure. But hey, I would put Poe Dameron in an X-Wing, and I'm totally down with it.
Yeah,
that is a character we did not get enough of.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I consider Resistance the Saint Anger of the Filoni's work.
That's our first Metallica reference for the show. That's pretty good.
Yeah, we haven't made one in a while, have we? But yeah, right on, right now, right. But yeah, so I think either way, we're gonna get new content. Looking forward to it. But yeah, I think, like you said, Dave, if they can kind of whatever magic dust they sprinkled on Mando seasons 1 and 2, they've got to carry that as the germ seed to grow new content, I think, for sure. But cool. All right. Let's flip over into collection corner. And DB, I know you just got back from a trip.
Yeah, I forgot to bring my items down to the man cave.
Aww.
But I have 3 items to brag about this week. Scruffy picked up a comic book for me. I know that's hard to believe. Scruffy would buy a comic book, but it was a bound reprint of a bunch of the Marvel stories from back in the day, and it's just friggin' awesome because it has Jackson the Green Rabbit, and it has the Cyborg Hunter. Not Hunter from Bad Batch, but the Cyborg, the Hunter. It's got some of the stories with the Tag family, which was kind of an interstitial story before Empire Strikes Back came out. It's some good stuff. That's cool. Yeah, I just got back from vacation in another part of the country. And Brown Leader was nice enough to text me the location of my nearest Ollie's and Ross stores. Since we don't have those in our little hometown. And fortunately, both Ollie's and Ross were within 5 miles of my hotel. So I convinced Mrs. DB to let me go. And Ross was pretty thin and Ollie's had rows and rows and rows of Palpatines if you wanted a 6-inch Palpatine, and I did not. But I did manage to pick up a battle damaged Micro Squadron Galaxy TIE Fighter for
cool.
$5, and I got a retro Cad Bane for $4. So, and I hate to say it, but I'm going to pull Cad Bane off the card because he's going in my cantina.
Nice.
For $4, hey, I can't go wrong, right?
No, right on.
And those are my acquisitions of this week. Acquisitions, that's a Ferengi term, and that's a Star Trek term. I'm trying to get back to Star Trek for our actor friend.
Yep. And we know Scruffy's not watching right now.
He's only texted me about 78 times.
I know. You're not supposed to say that.
He wants to know what I said I was going to assign. He didn't hear what I was going to assign for DB's Blockbuster. So I did tell him it was going to be Battle Beyond the Stars 2.
So we know Scruff's not listening right now, so I can tell you that I did mention to Mark when we do the role-playing adventure, if he wants to work in as many Leppies into the story as he wants to, he's more than welcome to do that, just because Scruffy will enjoy that. Yes. I also have been listening to his back episodes, and there is he builds this universe that he tells these stories in, and there is a popular pop culture TV show or HoloNet show in his stories, and it's Mando Man, and his sidekick is Bucky the Leppy. And so there's
nice
action figures have worked their way into the stories from time to time, but of these characters. Yeah. Anyway, Dave, collection corner.
Not too much. I was trying to find my one, but I can't seem to find him, so I'll just pull out my bobblehead Kylo Ren.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
It's one of my favorites. I always keep them on my desk around me. And my old vintage Captain Picard toy from like, I think this is like 1997.
Rock on.
Yeah, they're two specials, two franchises that I've grown up with, and two franchises that I love.
I love Picard because we have the same haircut.
So, DB, we did just have a recommendation for DB's Blockbusters. So the
hey, I gave it to Scruffy a long time ago, Maya.
So there you go. So yeah, for me, collection corner. I did get. So this is not Star Wars related, but we had our friends from Fight in the Box on the show last week. This is the reviewer prototype copy of their end of the line game that their Kickstarter, which ends today, I believe, can get in. It's a small gaming company. They do tabletop games. We had them on the show last week to talk about their Kickstarter, and this is an edition that will not be available in the stores. The one that you get will be a little more finished, but received that. Was you haven't been on in a couple weeks. Have you been on since Geek Trader happened a couple weeks ago, or have you been off since then?
Last time I was on was actually in June.
Okay, so our friends over Bryce with Virtual Cantina and the Star Wars Celebration Facebook group had a stand there, and he had a bunch of black series, and I got the Mudhorn Mando that I've been looking for, and nice. He gave me a great deal of $10. So thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Yeah. So, but really, other than any new acquisitions, we're just we've been doing this podcast for over 3 years, and my notebook is literally finally almost to the end. So I finally had to pick up a new notebook. Found one with a Vision style artwork.
That's awesome.
Which is pretty cool. And then a backup one that I picked up at Target just so I can have my notes for running the show. So, yeah. So, So yeah, so that's Collection Corner. And before we wrap up, Dave, again, it's been great having you on. It's always great to talk to you. And it was really great to see you on the boys. And I know next time we have you on, hopefully we'll be able to talk a little more about Trap and some of the other projects that you're going to be on. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody where they can find David Jones?
Usually Instagram's probably the easiest thing to find me on. Usually my stories, I'm always posting old photos from my old modeling days and, stuff I've been up to and stuff like that. My Instagram's actor Damon 86 official. I think I'm the big guy 86 on Twitter. I have had that handle since since my high school days, and I've never bothered, too lazy to change it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Instagram and Twitter are usually one of the places to find me. I'm a fan like everyone else, so I enjoy this whole thing in general. It's been life-changing.
Right on. And I'm hopefully one of these days we're going to have you on and you'll be able to tell us that you were indeed in the Jedi robes. And we're definitely looking forward to that day.
One day.
Yes, one day for sure.
Come on, Disney.
Right. So yeah, give him a follow on social, reach out to him. He does talk back to you. So definitely give him a follow. That's how we got to get to know him. So it is definitely well worth the time. So, all right, we're going to do final segment before we sign off. So I've got to play this. Dad joke of the week. Time to annoy Scruffy and DB. Dad joke of the week. All right. So this is courtesy of Kelly Knox's Star Wars dad jokes. We do one every week, and let me see if I can find one. All right. So let's see. No, we did that one already. Okay, here we go. Force ghosts don't like the rain. It dampens their spirits. That was Dad Joke of the Week. Now don't you feel absolutely complete? All right, so see what you've been missing, DB?
I might have to take another 3 weeks off after that. I don't know.
Come on. I didn't. Both Scruffy. So the author of that book, Kelly, she had posted online that she was doing nameplates, and all you had to do was reach out to her and send her your address. And she sent us autographed nameplates for our books, so that was kind of cool.
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, so anyway, Dave, it's great having you on. Welcome back anytime you want to nerd out with us. And I think we're definitely gonna, we should probably do because we know Scruffy's not listening. We should probably plan a Star Trek episode at some point again down the road. DB, once you kind of get caught up on some of the Paramount stuff, and I know I'm going to catch up on some of the Paramount stuff. Maybe we'll have you back on, Dave, and we'll do some Star Trek talk for a change, and we'll talk about that universe a little bit. So
I'm going to go watch that Strange New Worlds episode just so I can see you in it,
yeah.
And then I'm going to recommend to Mrs. DB we watch Thanksgiving. So.
There we go. Yeah. All right.
Thanksgiving is special to my heart.
Right on. So, all right. So with that, again, thanks for coming on. Definitely give David a follow on social. With that, I think we're going to call it a night. So to follow Hyperspace Heroes, follow us on any of our socials. You can slide into our DMs, send us messages. You can get a hold of us at brownsquadron@gmail.com for email. You can find all of our links for audio and video services at beacons.ai/Brown Squadron. And I think with that, we are going to get out of here. And thanks again for being on, Dave. So this is Brown Leader signing off for the crew, and you have been listening and watching Hyperspace Heroes. That's no moon.
Live long and prosper. Was it good for you?